Okay, welcome everybody to this webinar about real-world use cases where software metrics used to impact important business decisions. I did this webinar before for NESMA audience, so if you also attended that one a couple of months ago, then it will be a lot of redundancy. I apologize for that. Let me start saying a little bit about NESMA. So NESMA is an international not-for-profit organization that, like IFBG, governs a standard for functional size measurement. And we believe in the use of objective software metrics to get more grip on application development, maintenance, support activities using an objective size measurement standard, and especially also data. That's why our partnership with ISBSG is very important for NESMA. Let me skip a bit of this because I think most people here in the call know what NESMA is and what NESMA is about. Maybe interesting to know that we're already from the start of ISBSG, I think it was 1998, a partner of ISBSG, working together on all kinds of different data and functional size related initiatives. A bit about me. I think most of the people here in the call probably know me. Yeah, I'm Harold. I have a lot of history in IT, in software measurement and metrics. I have a history at Society, which is a service provider, where I did a lot of things in the metrics desk, always around software measurement, software metrics, benchmarking, estimation, those type of things. And now already for almost 10 years in IDC Metri, which is a management advisory firm. We help customers with making objective, good decisions, what to do with their IT spending, their IT budgets. And my role is especially in the application development, application maintenance sphere. And also the real live examples today is actually from my role as a principal consultant in IDC Metri, a couple of projects that I worked on recently. Functional size almost always plays a role, and ISBSG data almost always plays a role in most of my projects. So yeah, it's a very important part of my job. I have history in ISBSG. I'm currently a NESMA president. And I do something in the ICS software special interest group. This is about estimation. I'm a board member. And privately, I live in the Netherlands, and I'm 51 years old, and I do a lot of stuff next to my job and my passion for software metrics. So that's a bit about me. Let's see, today, yeah, for hardcore functional size specialist, there is also a bit of introduction here that you may want to skip because you're very well familiar with that. But these type of webinars also sometimes are attended by people who have no idea and are just making their first steps into this world. So I do a little bit of basic stuff here. And then we dive into two case studies. One of them is in cost estimation. The other one is a procurement type of price per function point case study at European Software, now the Security Markets Association. That's a European institution. And we finalize with some Q&A. I hope you have a lot of questions, but please hold them or write them in chat, and we look into that at the end. Okay, first of all, like I said, a bit of basics. Functional size measurement, function points. Okay, what good is it? What should we want with it? Especially now the whole world is doing Agile, and function points is something of the past, right? So this is the thing that we have to explain all the time. Functional size still very relevant, especially I would say in Agile, where a lot of focus from the teams often goes to a lot of activities that are not directly related to functional size. And I like to say it's a good proxy for value, because more functionality for users, if well prioritized, is more value. Otherwise, why would you do it? But then how to measure value is of course hard, but there are these objective ISO standards that can help you do it, and makes it more easy nowadays with all kinds of easier methods than in the old days where you had to learn a complete manual of 200 pages. And once you have the functional size, you measure it in an objective way. You can get all kinds of metrics. I will look into that later. And currently there are 5 ISO standards for functional size measurement. NESMA is in bold because I forgot to to unbold it after the NESMA webinar. But also IFPUC and Cosmic are, of course, very well known. Mark II and FISMA are kind of things of the past. I guess those ones are not used too much anymore. We haven't gotten any data from in the ISBSG database already for a long time from Mark II, FISMA, and even Cosmic. So nowadays, most of the data that we get in is NESMA and IFPUC data. So it's important functionality. So to measure functionality, it's a proxy for business value. If you want to get grip on your value delivery as an organization, you have to measure it. Otherwise, you can't control it or you have no insight into it. I always use this wall analogy. Maybe you've heard it many times already from me, but it gives a very important message. When I hire some guy to paint my wall, and the guy says, okay, I want to use wall points to measure your wall, and this wall is 100 wall points, and I give you $10 per wall point. Okay, that gives me something, but I can't compare that to another guy who also uses another definition of wall points and also quotes me something as a wall point. So the size of the wall you can measure in an objective way. It's a square, well, it should be a square meter. It's cubic meter, it's a mistake. But it should be square meter. And then you can compare things. Once you have the size of something measured objectively, this means that if this the first guy says, okay, I do €100 per square meter, and this guy says, I do €200 per square meter, it gives you information about, okay, what is going to cost and which one should I choose. So it's important to understand that when we're talking about function points, we're talking about the square meters and not about the wall themselves, because it still may be a lot of more effort to paint this wall than to paint this wall or to build it. But that depends on your experience state, on your historical data that you select from experience the right wall to use for your calculations. So once you measure functional size, these are my most favorite metrics that I use in most of my projects. The project delivery rate, you can measure the effort hours that you need or that you have spent to deliver a function point. For instance, 12.3 hours per function point. So I'm saying project delivery rate, this is the ISBSG term, which is theoretically important because usually the productivity, which is kind of the same term, but it's the inverse of this. So the productivity is output divided by the input. It's universally defined. So that's why we can't use productivity, but it's the inverse of it. Otherwise, we would get very small numbers like 0.00014 function points per hour, which doesn't make sense because the human brain can't really deal with those type of numbers. So that's we use the inverse. So you have cost efficiency, dollar per function point, delivery speed, function points per month, process quality, defects per 1,000 function points delivered. Value for money, this is, you can derive it from your cost efficiency. It's a number of function points that you get delivered for every $1,000 spent. This last one is not in the ISBSG database, by the way. This is one that I use myself. So what can we do? We can do software cost estimation. It's important. It's still important. I do these type of projects all the time. Many organizations still struggle with the cost of delivering some feature, some program. Using data, using parametric models gives very much extra detail if you compare it to the human judgment that most organizations use, where you just ask a couple of guys, okay, how much do you think it will be? How much do you think it will cost? Which almost always gives you an optimistic estimate. Once you have an estimate, you can track your progress, you can measure and benchmark your performance, but also of your contractor, of your vendor, for instance, and you can put your KPIs into the contracts when you contract agile teams. In fact, NESMA was working with the Dutch standardization organization NEN to produce a new, well, let's say, practice guideline that's already out for public review at the moment to measure external teams output-based and to contract them output-based. But it still needs to be translated into English. That's why I haven't really put it into this presentation. Objective management information, of course, when you understand the teams that produce faster or less fast or more productive, less productive, you can understand what's going on and try to improve. So I'll give you a very simple example here, estimation. So you measure your functional size, you use, for instance, 1,000 function points, you use data, ISBSG or your own data, to come up with some reference group that I will also explain a bit later. And then you can easily calculate your estimate and how much it will cost. This is very simple, but this is actually the basic way that you can do this type of things once you have your functional size. If someone says, okay, I will do this for 2,000 hours and for 200,000 euros or dollars in this case, you can go the other way around. You can look into the database, see, okay, how realistic is this? How many times has this been done before? Is this a realistic estimate, yes or no? So it gives you all kinds of extra levers to play with when you are in this type of situation. Of course, this thing data here, it's very big. It's an important part of the whole thing. If you don't have any data, there's no real use in functional size measurement because, okay, then you have your size. What are you going to do with it? So you need also to understand, if you want to do an estimate, what is going to be the data, what is going to be the most realistic productivity or project delivery rate. Let's use the right term. And that's where, of course, ISBSG comes in. So founded in 1979, promoting the use of data. The mission is to improve the management of IT resources and by provisioning public repositories. Well, this is the mission, of course. We want to help the industry make better decisions from an ISBSG mission point of view. And back in the days, there are a lot of organizations already use function points, but there was no data available because, yeah, organizations, they are very bad in capturing their own data usually, and it's still that way, by the way. So ISBSG was formed by a number of international measurement organizations, also IFPRC, also GOVP, ISMA, and others. Just to make sure that there is some data collection mechanism in the industry that helps us when we use functional size measurement to come up with good decisions and improved management. Okay, well, NESMA has been a gold partner. I told you that before, so there are all kinds of additional advantages for our members as well. One of the things I should mention here is that there are a lot of free resources also on the ISBSG webpage, short reports about certain things in the database. These are free for everyone. You can download them. For instance, okay, what's your productivity trends in Java, or what if I have to estimate SAP ERP project? All these type of things, they are there. So if you are not familiar with it, go to the ISBSG resources page and download a few of them. So ISBSG, what is it? It's basically an Excel file with a lot of data. So you have like the latest release, but a new release coming up soon. We have 12,500 plus projects there, or release or sprints, this is the development and enhancement repository. And there are 253 columns with data attributes of all the projects. And this allows you to just put a filter there. I say, okay, I want to measure using, for instance, Java. I want to filter on Java. And I want to use IFPRC and NESMA data because they're kind of similar results. I want to do industry sector banking, for instance. and it's a new development, and all this type of data is there, so you can make your own selection. And then usually you come up with some group of data where, of course, there are like maybe, let's say, 50 data points, and then you analyze the data points and try to understand the productivity, for instance, which is in the data points, and the distribution between it. So I will show you that in the first use case. So this software estimation is a pharmaceutical company, one of the largest pharmaceutical companies in the world. It's based in California, so it was a bit of a struggle with time zone differences. And I helped them with this case study. And they're using Oracle Clinical, which is a commercial off-the-shelf package. At the heart of their whole clinical processes, the critical processes. So this Oracle Clinical captures a lot of data about all the clinical trials worldwide that were done with certain drugs, for instance. And they used all the data to interface in other applications that are in their landscape. These were both custom-made ones in .NET or other commercial off the shelves. And Oracle just simply says, okay, nice that you all work with Oracle Clinical, but we just pulled it out of the market 3 years from now. So good luck with that. And of course, this is a risk, and they wanted to to do something about this. The first scenario was, okay, we'll find some other thing that does the same thing. And we try to integrate that, some other vendor, some other codes. Or the second one was, okay, but maybe we will face the same situation 2 years from now, and then we have the same problem. So maybe we would just want to redevelop all the functionality that's in this Oracle Clinical in .NET, because that's what they're using. And they wanted to have a tender process. So they just went to the market with the RFP. Okay, send me some proposal to replace Oracle Clinical in our landscape with your solution. So they sent that out to a number of vendors. And the second one is to cost estimation of the redevelopment of the whole thing, but then in .NET. And that was where I came in. So other colleagues of mine, because IDC Metri also provides the sourcing advisory. So they took care of the first stream, and I did the second stream. And the good thing, of course, about the redeveloping an existing product is that the thing that you're estimating is already there. So the functional documentation was there. Okay, we had some workshops to figure out, okay, how much of the functionality is going to be redeveloped, because maybe we don't use all the stuff there. And maybe we have to develop a bit of extra functionality that we really would like to have, or the business really wants to have. But in general, we just took the whole manual that was there, the functional documentation, and we did an indicative FPA. So indicative FPA is one of the NASMA methods that you can use very high level to get a rough order of magnitude indication of the functional size. And we do that because based on the base functional component types, it gets a bit more technical for people that are not familiar. But we look basically at which are the entities in the data model that is there. So the entities are things like customers, like trials, like the application is designed and developed to maintain information about these entities. And we have a very simple high-level method in NASMA that is part of the standard, by the way, that we can have, if we have a conceptual data model or a normalized data model, it depends a bit. We just, any internal logical file which is maintained by the application itself, we multiply it by 35 function points, because there is functionality to add it, modify it, delete it, show it, etc. And normalized for a data model, that would be 25. And for the external logical files, it would be 15 and 10. So we can do it because we have done in the past extensive studies about the accuracy of these type of high-level methods. And you can see here from the graph that, okay, especially for smaller projects, that the correlation is quite good there. And for bigger projects, there's a bit more variance around the trend line. But still, we say, okay, we can use this to get a rough order of magnitude. And that's why we measured this Oracle Clinical application, 3-point estimate, because we always do that, especially when you're uncertain. There's always in any estimate, there's uncertainty. We took these three sizes to work with. Then, okay, we go into ISBSG data. We used the 2023 version because this was early 2024 that we did this, and the new version was not there yet. We make a selection, like I said, doing the filtering A or B for the data quality rating. That means that a repository manager was very confident that the data was complete and correct. The size range 2 to 5,000, because we don't want very small projects in there or very large ones. Our project is like the size of 3,000 function points. Counterpart is NESMA project year for the data set delivered after 2021. So here you have to play a little bit to see, okay, how many data points will I get? In this case, I use 2021. A new development. If you ideally you would do a redevelopment, but there are just few data points about that. So that's why I took new development and not include certain relative sizes of the projects. So this and this is not really necessary because I already have a size range here. And this gave me 13 data points. And 13 data points, I know a lot of people will say, okay, but that's still too few to make a good analysis. Maybe there's this golden rule that you should at least have 30 data points to make any kind of statistical relevant conclusion, maybe. But that's in the ideal world where you have like millions of data points and we only have well, 12,500, which is still a lot. But if you want to narrow it down, in this case, I have 13 data points, which I consider is okay for this case study. And when you analyze it, and here I have the PDR, right? So hours per function point. So you can look at, okay, what is the minimum one in this data set of 13 projects? What is the maximum one? And what are my percentiles? So the percentile 25 means that 25% of the 13 projects in the data set has an 8.2 hours per function point or better, right? Here is better, lower the better. So the median, so that's the middle one when you rank them from low to high. Median is 8.6, and P75, 75% number is 10.3. So I always use the median because if you use the average in your data, it's very, very skewed, right? So you have a long tail here. Your average will be much higher than the median, and it doesn't really make sense to use that. And the median, in my opinion, better metric to use. And then very easy, okay, you can already have a first estimate with the three functional size ranges, the productivity, the PDR ranges. So you come up with this effort. So very important that you don't go to your manager and say, okay, my estimate is most likely 25,650, but minimum is 19,608. So apologies, because you have to make sure that whenever you report your estimates, you have to align your numbers with the let's say the uncertainty. If you say 19,608, it means that you're very precise, very accurate, very certain about the number, which is of course in this case not the case. So when you report it, I would say, okay, I use 20,000, 25,000, and 40,000, something like that as a management report. And it's only based on very high level numbers and ISBSG data, which is not your own data, of course. But it allows us to already do a lot of analysis because we can look into the duration, we can look into the delivery speed, and we can already understand, okay, if from the data it shows the duration, the likely duration is 2.2 months, and my delivery speed is usually something like in the neighborhood of 140. So I can already try to understand, okay, but if we're going to have such a project, how much effort will I spend per month? Because this is all based on your productivity, on your duration, etc. Yeah, and your size, of course. And then ISBSG data also allows you to understand the percentages per activity type. So these are percentages for this type of projects. And you already kind of understand the hourly rate. Usually in many organizations, you understand the hourly rates that are associated to these type of activities. So this means that you can already, for instance, for this most likely scenario, you can calculate effort per type, but also the cost, because we have here the hourly rates. So this means the project will cost about $3 million in the likely scenario case. And of course, you can do this also for the optimistic and the pessimistic estimate cases. And that, of course, allows the organization to understand, first of all, okay, but what does it mean in terms of team size? If we're going to spend all this effort and all this, into 22.2 months, and in this case, 7 FTE, which is perfect, of course, for Agile, a maximum of 10 or a bit more, 11. And so they can already understand, okay, if we're going to do this project, we need 7 guys. So how many do we have? Well, for this organization, of course, not a problem because they have a lot of people, but still it gives them some idea about the staffing. So they could help. This was input for them to understand, also to put it against the proposals they got from the vendors in work stream 1. If it's cheaper or more expensive to develop it themselves, and of course I didn't include the maintenance phase here for this webinar, but you also have to understand the maintenance of a custom-made application after you deploy it. So it was very helpful for them to understand at least, okay, how much money will this cost, how much effort will it cost, what will be the duration, how many staff will I use, etc., to understand the option 2 of the whole project. And the great thing about Agile, and they work Agile, of course, as anyone does nowadays, is that once you start your project, you can monitor. So you know, okay, I'm going to spend 22 months. I'm going to deliver 3,000 function points, and this is not it's just a general graph. It's not really related to this case. But it allows you at any point in time, because Agile, of course, should deliver something measurable at least every sprint, where you are. Because you have a plan. Okay, I have to deliver this after 35 sprints, and you have actuals. And so actuals, of course, not always exactly like estimated, but it allows you at any point in time to understand where we're going to end up. If we're going like this, is our PDR what we expected? Is it low? Is it high? And so in comparison to the old days where you only knew 1 day before the go live date that we're not going to make it, now you have very early possibilities to understand that you have to maybe do something in the project. All right, so that was the first case study. Let's go to the second one. Okay, so this one was for the European Securities and Market Authority, which has about 400 staff. It's a European institution. And they want to get more grip on the tenders that they got, the offers from suppliers. They didn't really have a good way to compare those and to understand what would be the cost in the long term if they went for certain suppliers. And they had a real case there. They had to start a project to develop a large BI, big data platform. They had all the requirements there. They just wanted to understand also in an agile way of working, what is going to be the cost in the future, and get more grip on the cost. Which is great, by the way, if you're some kind of government agency and you have that type of prudency, because in many organizations, uh, yeah, many government organizations, as we all know, cost is of of a secondary importance sometimes. Um, so what I want to do is send out a request for proposal to the market, just simply asking for what is your productivity for maintenance and for development of this platform, and what is your hourly rate. So basically, it gives you the rate per function point, right? So it's if you multiply these two, okay, you get 350 for development and you get 200 for maintenance. There were more than 30 vendors that were bidding for this project. More than 30 vendors. It was interesting because I was supporting one of the vendors, actually the vendor that won the contract, and later I got to talk to the person at ESMA who issued this contract, and he said, "Yeah, okay, we sent out this. We got 30 proposals, and we got insane responses. Like here, like 15.1 hours per function point, and 800 euros. All kinds of crazy things went into those things that were absolutely not realistic from some vendors. It's important to understand what is realistic. What is realistic? What is a realistic hours per function point? What's a realistic hourly rate? And so they made that assessment at their side, at the customer side. But that they made it a bit more, let's say, manageable by introducing the concept of these complexity slash functional size quadrants. So what they basically said was, okay, we have very complex pieces of work, and we have very low complexity work, and we have a very large items of work and very small ones. So let's make some kind of framework, some kind of model that we can have, in this case, 9 productivity categories, where we have some certain bandwidths about the size and about complexity, where of course complexity is still a bit debatable. Let's put it like that. Someone has to decide, is it high, low, or medium complexity? But at least there is this model in place. And they had this RFP pricing sheet where they have, they got 30 of these things from the vendors, 30 of these things where they have, for all the productivity categories, they have the hours per function point. Here you have maintenance, here you have productivity, application development, and the price and the cost per hour. Very simple, for 7 years. So that's another complexity, of course, for vendors as well, to understand what's going to be the inflation rate and what's going to be the indexation, those type of things. But it's very interesting to see that the customer organization, they did not necessarily select the lowest one, and especially, of course, not the highest one, but they made their analysis of themselves to understand which ones are lower than are realistically possible. And I think they use the ISBSG data to do that analysis, like you can, like I just showed you in the other example. So they selected within the reality range the most affordable one. Let's say the best productivity slash cost combination. And all these things you can do once you have your function points. So because then the project starts, and what happens is, okay, you're going to have in sprint 1, let's say in sprint 1, you're going to have, here you have a category 3 item, and you will measure your functional size is maybe 100 function points, and you know what you're going to pay. So it's very easy then to understand what is this going to cost us, and so you can forecast your budgets, your your costs very well. So if we look at the results, so your predictability is very good, and your cost is aligned with your functionality delivered, right? In contrast with a lot of time material contracts where customers pay vendors to by the hour, right? So by the hour you just incentivize your vendor to spend a lot of hours because then they can invoice a lot of money. But in this case, you will only get paid for the functionality that you deliver. So you will have to find a way to be as productive as possible to optimize your margin in your project. That reduces also the risk of budget overruns because that should be a very good reason if you want to pay, if the vendor needs you to pay more because this is your contract, this is your price. So you have accurate forecasting, you have the quality focus because of course you're only going to accept the functionality that is complies to also certain quality criteria. Which means that if there's a lot of rework due to defects, etc., your vendor will not have a good margin in this project because all of the rework is for himself. He gets paid by the function point. And your flexibility, scalability is also quite good. In the end, this should also enhance vendor-client collaboration, less discussions about all kinds of stuff because you have the contract, measure functional size, this is what you get paid, and all the other things, it's the business of the vendor that has to make sure that they have to, that they win on the contract, let's put it like that. So they have to ensure their margin. I think I'm already quite long here, so I'm going to wrap this up with a few key takeaways, like always. Well, I started with some basics. Functional size measurement is an ISO standard measured functionality. Why is this important? Because it's one of the best proxies for business value and still not a real measurement of business value because sometimes one function point can make a huge impact for your organization and another 1,000 not. But still, if it's well prioritized, more functionality should mean more value. Otherwise, why would you do it? Use of objective metrics based on functional size is important starting point for your estimation, benchmarking, team measurement, contracting, those type of important business activities that are often now done based on human judgment, experience, ideas, but not on data. And that's what we as NESMA and ISBSG, of course, want to encourage to use data and functional size measurement. I showed you also that once you have very high level functionality requirements, you can already do an indicative NESMA function point, very easy, very fast. We also have developed a new standard lately that I will show you in a minute after the Q&A for a second. It's my last thought. That makes it easier also for Agile teams to measure the functional size delivered very fast in sprint. Okay, I just said this. Okay, ISBSG data. You need data to do anything with your function points. If you measure functional size, you can't do anything with it unless you use data. Like the wall. If I know the wall is 20 square meters, what does it do for me? Nothing. So you have to use some data to convert it into something like an estimate, for instance. So the first case study I explained about the redevelopment project. Then monitoring your project is as important as Agile projects can spin out of control very fast. You have this principle, embrace change over following a plan, which basically means that whatever you want to change, you can change. And usually this is a product owner that which is employed by the customer organization that is inducing those changes. And that's of course in a contract a difficult thing that's always important to manage. But the good thing is after every sprint you have new data, you can recalibrate your estimate, understand where you're heading, and make decisions to control that if necessary. And then I showed you the RFP based on price per function points, where the customer organization was really happy with the way they could get objective understanding of what things are going to cost, and select a vendor based on well, realistic productivity, realistic hourly rate, which could be benchmarked. All right, well, that was the main part of my presentation. I'm of course curious, Paula, do we have any questions?
There's one just come in from Colin. I'll just enable people to unmute themselves. So you can unmute yourself and ask a question if you want to. I'm not sure if you can see it, Harold. On case study 2, how do you ensure that the FP specified by the client is clear? In other words, that the supplier is protected from poor quality requirements causing rework.
Yeah, that's Colin's question, right?
Yeah.
Good question. Good question. Of course, you have to get something in place, both on the input side, right? So you have your a certain way of expressing or writing requirements, but also on the acceptance side. When is a function point? When is functionality accepted by the customer? So there's the code quality. There's defects, all kinds of metrics there that I haven't discussed. And on the input side, of course, you can measure also the quality or make some arrangements about requirement quality. Now, as you may know, a lot of rework in many projects comes because of because of bad requirements. Especially in Agile, this is an issue. Because the product owners usually they are from the business, and they don't really know how to deal with the IT world. So they, when they state a user story, in their world it is perfectly logical what he wants. But in the IT developer world, these requirements may be interpretable in many ways. Easy example is, oh, I want to be able to maintain customer data. Okay, but maintaining customer data, what does it mean? Is it adding new customers and modifying ones, and what if the customer needs to be deleted? Is it possible, or can you only delete customers when they don't have any outstanding invoices, for instance? So all these type of things you have to consider as a product owner. And you can also measure the quality of the requirements. Well, probably you guys know that Colin Scope Master is there, right? So the Scope Master can measure also the functional size, but also the quality of the requirements, and show also the possibilities to improve. And by improving your requirements, your rework will be lower in the end, and that means that your vendor can get a better margin on this project because he will have less rework, and also your quality will improve. So focus on the quality of the requirements, shift left your quality, let's put it like that, is an important part of continuous improvement of your teams. And yeah, you can put all kinds of provisions in your contract about all this. And I haven't really touched upon that because we have 30 minutes of time, and it is a different topic.
Okay, question from Lewis. In case study 1, how do you calculate 35 function points per ILF indicator?
Yeah, so this is the NESMA indicative method. It's described in the NESMA standard. And it's based on the fact that for any ILF, you have some functions. So you have the ILF itself that gets a number of function points, of course. And you have a number of functions associated to the ILF. If you have an ILF, I just mentioned the customer. A customer could be an ILF. Then you have a function to add a new customer. You have the function to modify the existing customer. You have a function to delete the customer. But you also have functionality like list customers, active customers. And maybe this customer comes up in some list boxes in some screens where you also have some functionality to show those list boxes. So this 35 is based on a general belief that there's a certain amount of functionality that is associated to one ILF. And I showed you also the scatter graph where we did some studies about, okay, but how accurate is it? Sometimes, most of the times it's quite accurate. And sometimes it's not, but for high order of rough order of magnitude estimates, it's almost always a good idea to do it, because if sometimes a bid manager comes to you and say, hey, we have to do a bid for this project and I have to submit it next week. You don't have time to measure thousands of function points in a detailed way, so you have to use some high level method. And this is perfectly okay in that stage of a project.
Okay, thanks. Can't see any more questions coming through. I have a question. In the first case study, you came up with 13 data points for the NESMA. So what are your thoughts on combining the NESMA and IFPUG counting methods to collect your data?
Yeah, I usually do that. So I'm
Okay.
usually taking NESMA and IFPUG 4 plus because the methods are very similar. They're very similar. They give similar results. So you can do that, and I would probably get much more data points. I don't know why I only used NESMA in this case. Maybe there were some other reasons for it, but I can't remember that.
Okay. Pierre's just put up a comment in the chat.
Yeah, I can't see the chat, so
Yeah,
maybe.
okay. Yeah, go for it, Pierre.
I can take it, Paula. I just want to remind all that if you belong to a gold partner within ISBSG, like NESMAB, that Harold is representing, IFPUG that I am representing, or UFPISMA in Italy, etc. You can buy the data with a very good discount by being that kind of a member. And in the repository, it's not only project data that Harold has been using now and showing you. They're also covering the whole life cycle. There are a lot of data for over 2,000 applications about the maintenance and taking care of the applications. So welcome and get back to us if you want to buy the data. Thanks.
Yeah, and
Thanks,
I
Pierre.
have in this presentation actually also an example of that. But if there are no more questions, I will just deliver
One more
Oh.
question from Colin. He says, are you
Ah.
seeing a shift in popularity / adoption of function point methodologies in general?
I hope so. Well, like I said, I use this on a daily basis in a lot of my projects. But the new NEN norm, the NPR 5333, which I mentioned in the beginning, so output-based measurement of agile teams and contracting of agile teams, is going to address this what I call an industry bad practice of sourcing based on hourly rates. Like I said, if you source, and a lot of organizations are struggling with it, so they have all these agile teams, and what they do, they source people from vendors, and for any role they look for hourly rates. But then, of course, you have procurement guys who know nothing about IT. They just hire or they procure an office chair today and tomorrow a monitor, and okay, today I have to procure a software developer. So it's a completely different thing because it's not a physical thing. And productivity and quality produced by this guy is much more important than the hourly rate. So productivity can be 8 times as high of a good programmer compared to a bad programmer. And the hourly rate differs maybe €5, $5. So The time material thing, if you pay peanuts, you will get monkeys. It is a thing in IT, but procurement guys have no idea. So the idea about this new standard from that Nesma also worked on is to help procurement contract based on output instead of based on input hours. If you're a vendor, you have hourly rate contract. What do you want to do? You want to bill as many hours as possible. You don't care about whatever that they're doing. Product owner says today go left and tomorrow go right. Today you go left, tomorrow you go right. Doesn't matter as long as you can bill your hours. But then, if you shift it around, you get paid by what you produce, which has to adhere to some quality requirements, of course. But yeah, output based, what have you delivered? What value are you creating? Then it's a whole different ballgame, because then the whole organization will start thinking in another way, thinking about delivering value instead of burning money. And then, then function points will start to become more important, because value, okay, how are we going to measure value? Then there's only one way to do that. And there's only one objective thing that you can put in these kind of output-based metrics and about scope, about size, and that's the function point. So I hope this NPR, which is going to be an ISO standard maybe in 2 years from now, but will be a Dutch practice guideline at the moment. More than 30 companies worked on this. Dutch tax office, all kinds of organizations worked on this. And I hope that this publication is going to be the first real publication that is going to be adopted by the market using functional size metrics, and which is going to be a huge impact for the industry. The only thing is that it's not really there yet. There is a first version for public review. It is out there. It's in Dutch, so yeah, it's a bad thing. But so people are now reviewing this NPR. It's going to be probably published in after the summer, I think. And only then there will be the process to translate and to submit it to ISO. So that may take some more time, but it's a promising first step, I would say, in addressing this whole thing. It's a long answer. Sorry about that.
Okay. All right. No more questions coming through. So
okay, then I will just very briefly touch upon this. So we have easy functional sizing. It's going to be a standard, ISO standard, where we especially target to the Agile teams, where we try, and it's a bit connected to the NPR, which I just said. We want to encourage Agile teams to start using functional size metrics again next to their story points. So we're not saying, okay, you can't do story points or you can't do whatever points that you're using, do whatever you want, but make sure that you measure also objective way the functionality that you produce, the value that you produce, because then we will, your organization will get a lot of more extra insight and can compare, and can benchmark, and can see trends and discuss about, okay, what things can go better, etc. So it is a bit, it's like the normal NESMA standard, but it's much easier to do, because you only have to identify logical files, external outputs and external inputs, and there are only 4 pages of counting guidelines that you have to familiarize yourself with. And you can download it now also from the NESMA site, so it is available. It's free for members, and I think it's 20 euros for non-members, so it's very easy. Because we want to spread the word, right? We want to make it as popular as possible, so that a lot of organizations will start working with this. And that's basically what I wanted to share with you. Okay, so this is my final slide, but I have this backup because Pierre was saying about the discount. So this is for NESMA members, which is the same for GoofP, ISMA, IFBERG, other gold partner members, I would say, where you have quite a discount possibilities if you want to procure the ISBSG data and you are a member already of one of these organizations. It is really worthwhile. And like I said, if you're using function points, yeah, function points itself, you can't do anything with it. You need data. And even if you have your own data, ISBSG data is, of course, industry data collected all over the world, verified by the repository manager. And it always gives you extra additional ways of analyzing, of understanding, of improving, etc. All right. So with that small commercial last message, I would
I'll
say
just add to that.
thank
Thanks
you.
for that, Harold. I'll just add to that. So what the prices Harold's putting up is in euro. So NISMA have already taken on the conversion there to Australian dollars. But if you were purchasing directly on the website, there's a coupon that you can use for 20% off for gold partners. Contact your organisation to get the coupon, or you can contact us and we'll give it to you. But also the Australian dollar is really poor at the moment. And as much as that hurts me, it's very good for everybody else.
Oh, wow. I didn't even know that. Okay.
Yes. Okay. All right. So thank you so much, Harold, and we'll close the meeting. And thanks for everyone to attending.